All right, for week 16 Wednesday, I'm just going to be talking about the pages from yesterday, 279 to 292. So this section is the beginning of the actual trial, and it covers all of the arguments and testimony for the prosecution. So first up, we just kind of get a sense of the layout of the courtroom. One notable member of the courtroom is Mr. Clutter's brother, Arthur, who doesn't seem to necessarily agree with some comments that have been made by the rest of the family. You may recall Bonnie's brother arguing for forgiveness and mercy. Arthur says, "I could tear them apart." So maybe not so much on the mercy side there. Perry Smith seems to recognize him, must resemble his brother. So the witnesses start coming, most of whom are unchallenged by the defense. They choose not to cross-examine. I mean, really, it's not going to make them very popular to cross-examine, these poor young girls who saw their friend die. The first witness where things start to get kind of spicy is Richard G. Rollader. So Richard G. Rollader is a photographer, and he is the one who took the picture that revealed Dick's footprint in the dust, which is part of what helped them make their case. He also took the crime scene photographs. So because he was able to testify about having made the photographs were allowed into evidence, and they were shown to the jury. So the reactions from the jury, and this is near the bottom of page 281, oh wait, I think maybe I went past it. Yeah, the reactions from the jury were notable. One man's cheeks reddened. Some people just couldn't even look at them. Just a lot of contempt generated by the really brutal photographs of the family. So anyways, Dick's father seems very not optimistic. We do get one interesting kind of contested witness, Floyd Wells. So Floyd Wells, of course, was kind of the break in the case, so he naturally was called on to testify about why he thought that Dick went after the Clutter family, which was, because of him. So the two lawyers do their best with him. So around the bottom of 283, we hear some attempt at cross-examination. Why didn't you tell Dick not to rob and kill the Clutter family, trying to make Floyd kind of seem guilty by association? He was obviously, encouraging this crime, so that invalidates him as a witness. So yeah, that's kind of attempt number one to invalidate him. The other attempt was by Harrison Smith, the younger lawyer, who tried to paint him as kind of a chronic liar, also tried to paint him as, just in it for the money. So Floyd was definitely aware of the reward, but it's hard to argue that, he lied just to get the reward. There also was the question about immunity, which is, again, kind of a fair point, but it was objected to, and the judge, upheld that. So Floyd Wells did receive reward, and he did receive parole. So there was absolutely some incentive for him in this situation. Now, as far as we can tell, he didn't make up anything. He just told the truth. But the points about, he's getting something out of this are probably fair, even though he was being truthful. So he did experience many vicissitudes, many ups and downs in his life. Didn't seem like this reward and parole really straightened him out any. But hey, he was trying to do the right thing, I suppose. All right. The next bit in this section covers the testimony of the KBI agents. So, ironically, the most damaging witness for the prosecution, so thus the most helpful witness for the defense, was Alvin Dewey. Alvin Dewey mentioned a couple of incidents that the court had not known about. So, for one thing, he talked about Dick and Perry's conversation about raping Nancy Clutter, which definitely gave Dick a bit of a start. I'm sure that was tough for his parents to hear. So that painted Perry in a slightly more sympathetic light. The other thing, which really probably should have made Perry look worse, but probably ended up making him look a little better, was Perry's reasoning about why he wanted to change his statement, that he wanted to confess to killing all 4 of the Clutters out of sympathy to Dick's parents. So again, they didn't end up changing the statement, but Alvin Dewey, personally testified, having been there and been present for that conversation. This testimony also had an interesting reaction. Mrs. Hickok, she ended up having to leave the courtroom because she was so upset. And I wonder, they never state, but I wonder, this woman reporter, I wonder if that was Nell Harper Lee. It's unclear whether she was present for the trial or not, but that would be an interesting way for Truman Capote to have gotten the information from this conversation. Unless, of course, he went out and conversed with her after she came out of the bathroom. So she talks about how kind people have been, which is fascinating, of course, because, a lot of times the default is to blame the parents. Obviously, you must have screwed up your kid something awful for them to turn out like this. But she tells some positive memories that she has about Dick as a child, growing up, best-natured little kid. And then these last few details, really heart-tuggers here. She does say that she was wrong to hate Perry. She's got nothing but pity for him now. So it seems like Perry's testimony about trying to protect her feelings maybe kind of swayed her opinions on him. And then this last comment, Dick's father is dying. I don't think he minds anymore. And he is very ill and doesn't make it very long after the conclusion of the trial. So, grim reminders that the Clutter murders tore apart a family. This trial, is definitely destroying this family. You could argue it was already destroyed, but tough times. Now, the last bit that we have here is a little section with Don Cullivan. So they recess for the weekend, and Donald Cullivan, who is set to testify on Monday when the defense presents their case, has a little bit of a dinner party with Perry, and the Myers are eager to assist, they said, because they do want Perry's soul to be saved for God. So Perry, of course, especially because of his experience in the Catholic orphanage, is very, very prejudiced against religion. Tried to believe back when he and Willie J were friends, but it just never really worked out. One interesting comment I thought was his commentary on the trial, looking at the jury members, refers to them as prairie billies. I guess that's like the Midwest version of redneck or something. And he says, I'll be damned if I'm the only killer in the courtroom. So it does beg an interesting question. We have in our country, illegal executions, illegal killings. We call that murder. We also have legal execution, which we do not deem to be murder. There's this diffusion of responsibility. Well, all the jury members have to agree, so the responsibility is shared by all of them. And then, there's the court system, the appeals process. We've really taken away the responsibility of capital punishment from any single person, having to decide the life or death of another person. But it is still killing someone. So Perry does, make that point. Anyways, dinner time. So they have a lovely feast, and then they have some very interesting conversation. At the top of page 290, Perry starts to say some very interesting things. He does mention Dick's impulse control, which Dick himself acknowledged. Dick loves to steal. It's an emotional thing with him, a sickness. The only reason I steal is if I need something. Dick just enjoys it, that impulse. And interesting kind of philosophy here, all crimes are varieties of theft, variations of theft, murder included. And he does affirm something that, who knows how we feel about that at this point. But sometimes this statement is the one that finally convinces the doubters, the people who say, oh, I don't think you really did all of it. Perry admits, I did kill them. So Dewey made it sound like I was prevaricating on account of Dick's mother. But no, it was the truth. I did kill all of them. Dick was just as culpable as I was in many ways, but physically, I was the one that shot the gun. So the next question that I usually have for the class at this point is, well, if Perry did kill all of them, would we give Perry a different punishment from Dick? If we could be in charge of this courtroom process, would we give Dick a lesser punishment in some way, shape, or form? And usually people say no. And honestly, the sticking point for a lot of people is Dick's desire to rape Nancy. He didn't go through with it. He didn't do it. But just the knowledge that he tried, to them in some ways is even worse than killing someone with a shotgun. So anyways, you can decide that. But I do find Perry's comments really interesting here, talking about the clutters. They never hurt me like other people, like people have all my life. Maybe it's just that the clutters were the ones who had to pay for it. So Perry is acknowledging the role of his past trauma in leading to this situation. If he hadn't been so hurt and used and abused throughout his life, maybe he wouldn't have lost it and, hurt the clutters the way that he did. He also talks about his lack of remorse at the top of 291. He says that he's not sorry, which is at odds with some other portrayals of him when he was in Mexico and couldn't stop talking about the clutter case with Dick and having those flashbacks to the silver dollar and Nancy's last words. That seems like someone who is haunted by what he has done. So who knows, whether Perry was misrepresenting himself then or whether he's misrepresenting himself to Dawn. But it's a pretty harsh condemnation of himself at this point. He mentions that soldiers don't lose much sleep. They murder and get medals for doing it. And that does beg the question, who has the right to kill? We praise soldiers, for killing to protect our country. But the death penalty, murders, killings carried out by soldiers, are they all so different? That's kind of the question here. And then this last bit, killing the clutters was like picking off targets in a shooting gallery. What a cold, heartless simile there. Completely dissociated and attached and, almost objectifying the clutters as if they were just targets rather than actual human beings. So anyone who is a Perry defender, this is a pretty damning section for him. His commentary, his lack of remorse and regret, lack of overt remorse and regret, They definitely don't jibe with, this guy who supposedly has a, kind of a big heart and loves little animals and, defends defenseless young girls. And he's a very, very complicated character. It is not clear, whether he is truly evil or whether he's just a very complicated human being. So, anyways, that closes out the section. Perry contemplating suicide once again, but yeah, we'll get to the defense side of things on, well, tomorrow. All right, that's all.